Hello, and welcome once again to Mark My Words, a podcast series, of course, offering a glimpse into alternative paradigms hiding just beneath the surface of everyday life. Where our first question of the day is always, what if? And glad to see everyone back. And for the newcomers, welcome. We have Mark Cornelius here with us. And if you followed some of the past stuff that we've put up here, Rutting Through Life was our first series. And in our last series, we discussed one of Mark's books, which concerns rut management. We are also including some of the other of Mark's books, and hopefully we'll be able to get into some of these things. They'll spark you to get a little bit more interested in such things as unmeasuring, marginalization, some of the good stuff that we're trying to present here. And Mark, I'm going to pass this over to you because I think you can do a real quick review for us about the last series that we did. So, Mark Cornelius, welcome, sir.
Well, howdy hi to all you thinkers out there. Paul, my good companion thinker. So, you guys out there who are listening to us, watch out because when we start this stuff, we're gonna maybe burn a few brain cells. We encourage anyone to react to this on website or email or whatever, and you'll see the options for that later on. As Paul had already said in summary, we've already talked about three or four books actually, but rut management is kind of the linchpin of all this that holds it all together. We'll show you how to get to that later. We also have been talking about, hold on here, and I'm not going to go too far into this yet, but Marginalized is the other book that we have talked about, as well as Unmeasuring. But this is not, this particular session is starting off a brand new series. And it's not just about the books, it's about something even more than that. When we read, when we think, when we do, are we just putting out our opinions or are we actually, I don't know, cognizant about what we're thinking? So I'm going to put out a teaser. You already saw it there. I teased the teaser earlier, but I want you to think about this. The safest place to keep your secrets is to keep them in your mind with a locked tongue. Why is that, Paul?
Well, I've been a very, very strong proponent of doing my best not to think out loud. And of course, I know that there are folks around that are very close to me that tell me that I'm not doing a great job at that. But but a lot of times we have our own preconceived notions, our perceptions of things, as you have well described in certain areas of your books, especially in marginalization, in my opinion. And so my whole idea of what I'm doing sometimes involves not really how I'm thinking, or even sometimes what I'm asking or what I'm thinking. It has something to do with this preconceived thing that I've got going. And I'm either trying to format that agenda or I'm trying to discover new avenues to that with that agenda. So there you go, Mark.
Okay, well, we're going to get into a quick metaphor about that because you're exactly right. We have preconceived ideas, we have preconceived thoughts, we have preconceived opinions that affect our actions. So if we're not stopping every once in a while saying, whoa, wait a minute, do I really believe that? And if I believe it, how is that affecting? If I don't believe it, how is that affecting me? So, metaphorically speaking, you will see behind me this wonderful bookshelf that in previous episodes has been full of books. It just so happens that we're remodeling, so I use this opportunity to strip the bookshelf of books, a clean slate, so to speak. And sometimes maybe more than we do on a regular basis. We need to take everything off the shelf and rebuild because we may not actually believe what we're thinking. We may not actually work through those issues well, and then when we convey them to other people, we're misrepresenting not only ourselves, but we're also influencing them in inaccurate ways. That makes sense?
I hear you. And
Okay.
it also, by kind of, if you will, like clearing your mind, as we sometimes call it, we're able to recognize what those things are that we're actually some of the baggage that we're carrying with us. And I use the term baggage loosely because it can be good stuff, it can be bad stuff. It doesn't matter the quality of it, and especially in this conversation about, as you have so aptly mentioned before, it's about finding out about what you truly think and how you think as opposed to what you're actually saying. And sometimes we have to take a step back, just as you mentioned. So, good point, Mark.
Well, thanks a lot, and that's part of the rut road that the rut journey that we all take. I said I wasn't going to talk much about books. Here I am, right back on the books because okay, so old rut habits die hard, and sometimes they shouldn't die. They should just be used in a different way. So, as we're talking about rut management, which, by the way, is determining and navigating the best course through life's journey, we also then get to a point where let's see here if I can get you to another place here. You see marginalized on there?
Not quite yet, Mark.
Okay, well, I will fix that. I know what I did. Okay, there we go. How's that?
Perfect.
Okay. So the other thing I'll talk about with marginalized, that's what happens when we don't agree. How when we don't play well together. Okay. One of those issues is that we each have our own predetermined opinions that we throw in. And if someone doesn't quite agree with us, we're going to immediately set up a barrier. Now those can be broken down, and that's what we're talking about here. First of all, I've got to strip my barriers before I can expect you to strip yours, and that brings us back to the other book and measuring. That's how we do it by listening, not just to other people. What's up here? What do we hear, and how can we strip ourselves, empty the shelves, so to speak, and relearn how to listen to one another. Okay, so that's enough of that quick review there. Uh, I'm reminded each time I do this. I'm just going to talk for a second here. Um, Asking questions for the sake of asking questions. Do you ever find yourself doing that? Just nothing more than asking a question to, for lack of a better term, get a rise out of someone. All right. I may enter into a conversation knowing full well that I don't agree with someone. I don't want to agree with them. I don't care to agree with them. So I'm just going to ask them questions, kind of like I, I'm like a kid with their parent. When the parent has something they want me to do, I remember way back when, because I'm obviously not a kid anymore, but I used to ask that one question. But why? But why? You know, go clean up your room, Mark. Well, why? I knew perfectly well why, but I didn't want them to know I knew that. So I would put up that why question. Is why a bad question? Absolutely not if you're looking for an answer. But if I keep cycling around, it becomes very obvious very quickly. I don't want an answer. I just want the why. Right? Ever been there?
Oh yeah.
Uh,
Plus, that at that point, it gives us the time to take our turn at thinking out loud for no reason.
but why, Paul? Why do I need that time to think? That's
Well, sometimes we're not thinking true, which I believe is the name of this particular series.
thinking through. That's exactly right. And to think through, and again, kind of referencing rut management, there's a path, but there's also a destination. Ultimately, and this is the hard one for each of us to admit, do I really, really want to know the answer, the destination, the place we're going to arrive at? Do I want to know that? Or am I just content with saying, whatever happens, happens? I'm just going to ask why to stall. Okay, so we're on that. Um, all right, and here we are in this current age, right? We uh, we live in an inductive age or environment. And for a reminder to all of you out there, there's a whole nother series that we've already gone through. What, 15 episodes, Paul? That they can
Yes.
refer to on YouTube. Again, we'll refer to that later. But we talked about inductive and deductive reasoning. Inductive, not a bad thing, but we want a certain outcome. Because we want a certain outcome, we inductively think, okay, I want everything that's in my universe to arrive at this particular point. Okay. Versus deductive reasoning, saying, all right, the world around me, the universe around Mark, which is not my universe, it's somebody else's, but there's a universe around me. It suggests there might be something else going on out there. And because of that, I've got to reverse engineer and say, okay, why are these things happening? Why is this happening? Why is this happening? Is it because of something I've done or somebody else has done? That's deductive reasoning. And the combination of the two is very healthy. If I lean more toward inductive reasoning and saying, I want everything to make sense only because I want it to be my way, I'm sorry, but everyone else is going to disagree with that, right? If I'm deductively reasoning, I never arrive at a purpose for myself. So we have to do both. And that's what this series is going to dwell on. So let's go back to sharing my screen for a second. And I'm going to go to past the teaser to a couple of options of agendas that we tend to go with. Agenda 1. Tell me if this is you or not, Paul. I have a purpose and I want to justify my action.
That's been me on several occasions. And I'm
Okay.
looking at Agenda 2, and I'm seeing that there is a kind of a mix of those, as I'm sure all of us are.
I have no
But
purpose and I want an excuse to justify my inaction. Exactly. Okay. I've been both. And anyone out there who says they haven't been both, I challenge you to prove it. I challenge you to prove it. So with inductive reasoning, these are the things that happen. With deductive reasoning, it's okay, I want to see what other people are thinking out there. I want to test my thoughts with theirs. And I honestly want to come to a conclusion that makes sense overall, not just something that satisfies my selfish needs. All right. Okay. That's going to hurt a lot of people. They're going to go out there and go, what's wrong with my selfish needs? Well, I'm sorry, Paul, your selfish needs aren't my selfish needs. And in the last episodes, we've talked about the higher purpose, right? Where we're all kind of working together. No, that is not social justice. No, that is not a communistic idea. That is an idea that whether you or I agree on it or not, there is a higher purpose out there, and it has nothing to do with what I think or what you think. It's what is out there already and what we have to discover together. Make sense?
Sure
Okay.
does.
Well, that being said, thinkers, I just turned the page, by the way. In case you didn't catch that metaphor, the page has been turned. So I want you to think, thinkers, why do you want to know what you know and act the way you act? Why? Not what is it that you know and how is it you act, but why? And if you're not asking yourself that question, I dare you to. Okay? How do you think in order to justify your knowledge and your actions? We seem to all be in this little trap of thinking my knowledge is the most important thing on the planet. Really? you know, is what I know up here the most important thing to you, Paul?
No.
No. Okay. Oh, ow.
Sorry to hurt you there.
Oh.
But if we're thinking through things and if we're thinking true, well, then we have to realize that that goes for all of us.
So, how do we do that? How do we get to that point where we're thinking rather than just believing something? Not that thinking is bad, not that thinking, excuse me, a brief entertainment interruption. Okay. Sorry about that. Someone was communicating from afar. Okay. Can you read that on the screen, Paul?
Actually, it's not shared.
Oh dear. You see, I'm not thinking well. I was distracted, but we're going to get this. That was my beautiful bride, by the way, giving me instructions for the day and what she thinks, which is important. Make sure you listen to those around you for what they believe is important, and in most cases, agree with it. Okay, so that being said, all right, here we go. Can you see that?
I sure can.
I hope each and every one of you who are out there after that little interruption are inspired less by what I think and what I know, and are inspired more by how I think and how I know. And that's what I hope for you, Paul, that you also are more inspired by how I think, not what I think, how I know, not what I know. And for each and every one of you, because that's where this series is going to go. We're going to test our thinking against what actually happens with our actions. When it all boils down to it, we all know a lot of stuff. We've all had a lot of experiences. But so what? So what? And just because you've had experiences that are different than mine, does that make yours better? Isn't it more important that we're all looking at how, not what we've arrived? And with that, you're going to ask me a question about what's coming up, right?
Oh yeah, we've got a long series ahead of us here, Mark, and I think the biggest rule of thumb right now is to keep our arms and legs inside the ride, because this is going to hopefully inspire our listeners as well as to inspire ourselves into becoming better listeners, and also being able to kind of look at it and kind of rethink, if you will, some of the ways that we have allowed some of these core beliefs or these notions to get in the way of our being able to really think true, as the name of the series is called.
Well, how are we going to do that? There you go. How in the world are we going to keep on that road?
We live through better technology here. So, as you can see, Mark has been kind enough to throw the information up here for our listeners and for those of you who are watching this particular podcast. The email, Facebook. Mark, you want to go ahead and carry it on out here?
Sure. We would invite each and any one of you who are listening or watching to email us at markcwrights@gmail.com. You can go to the Facebook page for Mark My Words, and you can jump in there and give an opinion or an experience with how you're thinking, or what you're thinking if you want to try to counter what we're saying. There is a website where all those books I threw out, plus much, much more, is available at www.rutmanagement.com. And of course, we want you listening and watching the whole series. If you haven't seen the first series, which talks much more about the rut journey that we are now jumping ahead on, you can go to our YouTube channel, and that's going to take you right to that place and help you get more acclimated. So I've left that up there long enough. I think, I mean, I can leave it up there a few more minutes, but I'm sure people can pause their computer if they need that information. And I'm going to go back to not sharing the screen. There we go.
All right, there you are.
There I am. And there you are. What do you think
Absolutely.
about that, thinker?
That's right. And for those of you who have joined us on this journey here, thank you very much. And Mark, thank you for running through a few of these ideas and actually tying it into rut management and the path, our rut path. And do you have anything else to add for our folks today or during this session, or are we good?
Well, we already talked about making sure you thinkers are thinking out there, so right on.
Excellent, Mark. Well, I guess we'll just have to see you next time. So we're going to stop this particular one. We'll catch everyone on this second episode of our Thinking True series. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Paul. See you all later.